Have you ever given the key to your happiness to someone else? That happens when you feel you need somebody to change his or her behavior, and then you'll be a happier person. In other words, you are unhappy because this person is not behaving in such and such manner. If that is the thinking, then your happiness requires somebody to behave in a particular fashion. The problem with that is that person also has the key to making you unhappy. Now we need to change this, and that is what we are going to learn today on the fourth day of our discussion on the art of happiness as a part of our happiness challenge. Consider this scenario. You had a morning 8:30 appointment with your boss, and your alarm failed to ring. You woke up late, and when you wanted to enter the bathroom, your family member was already there and took excessive time. Finally, when you sat in the car and reached the highway, you discovered there was a traffic jam because of an accident. And when you reached your boss's office, you were 45 minutes late. Your boss gave you a piece of his mind, because of which you became extremely miserable that day. Now, whom would you blame for your misery? Your boss who scolded you? The cars which had an accident? Or your spouse who took too much time in the washroom? Or that stupid alarm clock which did not ring on this day? Actually, none of them are responsible for your unhappiness. Why? Because your sentiments do not have to hinge upon the external circumstances. You can choose happiness no matter what. Let me share with you a revealing story in regard to this, which I love very much. Viktor Frankl was an Austrian Jew. He was also a practicing psychologist and had written a paper that Sigmund Freud, the senior psychologist and father of psychoanalysis, had gotten published. However, during the Second World War, when Hitler was rounding up the Jews in Europe and throwing them into concentration camps, Viktor Frankl, along with his wife and daughters and brothers, was thrown into the worst of these camps, the Auschwitz camp. There he was separated from his wife and daughters, and later on came to know that they had died. He describes the wretched conditions in that prison. He says, we used to be forced to walk through the night without wearing clothes, unsure whether we would be alive the next day or not. However, in that situation, he discovered he had one freedom that nobody, absolutely no one, could take away from him. That was the freedom to choose to be happy. He decided to exert it, and he would be found smiling, even laughing, by the guards of the prison. They were astonished. He became a source of inspiration to the prisoners and to the guards themselves. He decided to live through this ordeal and to announce to the world his discovery. Finally, when Germany lost and he was released from prison, he went back to Austria. He wrote a book, Man's Search for Meaning in Life, which was translated in 29 languages of the world. He began touring and lecturing around the world and received honorary doctorate degrees from scores of universities. His personal experience relates that difficult circumstances may come upon us, but it does not mean that we have to be miserable. As the saying goes, pain is inevitable, misery is an option. So when we feel unhappy, our natural tendency is to play the blame game. My unhappiness is because of so and so. Until that person changes, how can I be happy? And in doing so, we have placed the key of our happiness in the hands of that person. People who think in this manner, they feel desperate because they need external circumstances to change, and these situations are not necessarily in their hands. However, when we decide that I am in charge of my own emotions, when we decide that I need to stop playing the blame game, it is then that we take responsibility of our moods, and then slowly we start mastering our own mind. If I am unhappy, I alone am responsible for it, and I need to change my emotions. That is when we start progressing on our inner journey to becoming better and happier people. In this Art of Happiness series, on the 4th day of the Happiness Challenge, I hope that you have already started utilizing the tools that we had discussed yesterday. So, the important homework for us to implement today then is to decide, I will not blame anybody for my unhappiness. If I feel miserable, I will have to learn to choose better feelings, better sentiments, and better emotions. For then I will be on the fast track to becoming a happier person. What do we need to do subsequent to this? We will discuss tomorrow on day 5 of this happiness challenge.